Having scaled my own ecom businesses to over 850 million in sales, and having personally invested in or advised hundreds of e-commerce founders, I've gathered a pretty good understanding of what it takes to grow an ecom brand from 6 to 9 figures. And in this video, I'm going to reveal a single hack I've discovered to scale your brand to millions. This hack is, all right, let's stop messing around. If you're still looking for the next growth hack or one secret tactic, an untapped marketing channel or foolproof ad strategy, then I have some good and bad news. The bad news, that elusive hack that you're looking for, it doesn't exist. AI for this, TikTok for this, agencies for that. Should I run one campaign or run hundreds at small budgets? You need to learn that profitable scale isn't out there somewhere that's a magical hack that will appear. Instead, the key to real scale is hiding in plain sight within your business already, with what you're already doing. And that's the good news that I've got for you. Because that means that it's within your control, it's within your reach, you just need to uncover it. And it's remarkably simple when you know what you're actually looking for. I've simplified it down into a 4-step formula that I've repeatedly used when building my brands, advising my Shark Tank investments, or mentoring founders in Daily Mentor. It is fair to say that 99.9% of people just don't know this. Today, you'll see exactly how to apply this framework to your business, gain immediate clarity on what to do and how to do it, and finally understand the truth about breaking through to your next revenue milestone without wasting $1 on false promises or wasting another day chasing shiny objects. So let's get into it. The first step is by far the most important, and that's to diagnose the constraint. Here's the first rule of scaling. When you grow a business, you also amplify its problems. We recently had a call with a brand that sells health products. They just hit $400,000 a month in sales in just 5 months. Huge growth. Their next big goal was 1 million per month. On the surface, they looked ready. Steady revenue, new hires, launching multiple channels. But under the hood, cracks were beginning to show. The moment they tried to scale, everything buckled. Tariffs were suddenly costing them $30,000 a month. They kept getting the wrong shipments from China. The team was super stressed out and stretched thin. Their fast growth revealed that their business had been built on shaky ground. That's why the first step of scaling is always to take a brutally honest and informed look at your business and identify the root problems that could hinder your growth. What I'm talking about here is diagnosing the constraints. And in my experience, there are really only 2 constraints you need to worry about. The first are operational constraints. This means that you can't keep up with existing demand. Often this is because of something like inventory issues due to wrong forecasting or inefficient suppliers. Or it could just be due to poor cash flow management and it's hard to fund your operations. The second are efficiency constraints. This means you're spending way too much money to generate the demand, which hurts your profitability. Maybe your ROAS is too low, or you're overpaying staff, or you're investing in a tool that just doesn't really have an impact on your bottom line. So how do you tell what is your main constraint? It's simple. Ask yourself this one question. If I ramped up budget, what would happen to my business? Would I start to get issues operationally, such as the issues I mentioned with the wellness brand, like the team breaking and supplier issues? This would be an operational constraint. Or would your advertising simply start costing far too much and you would start become unprofitable? This would be an efficiency constraint. This is often a light bulb moment for ecom brands, as they are constantly told to just spend more money on ads, which amplifies their problem. If you're still confused about this, there are also 4 key metrics that you can track to determine what is constraining your business. These include marketing efficiency ratio, which stands for MER, COGS, which is your cost of goods, operating expenses, also known as OPEX, and net profit. Let's take MER, which measures how much revenue you gain for every marketing dollar you spend. For most e-com stores, a good benchmark to aim for is 35%, but obviously this can differ between industries and margin profiles. If it's less efficient than this, it could mean that you have holes in your marketing machine, like an underperforming ad or high CPAs, which point you to having an efficiency constraint. Now, just a quick side note here. If you don't even know what your target MER is and you're running an e-com business and you don't know how to track it daily, this is terrifying. And you need to reach out to us ASAP. We might be able to save you from bankruptcy or double your business with just one phone call. Next, you need to consider COGS, which for most healthy brands should be at around 35% of revenue. Higher COGS means you have a profitability problem, which is often caused by pricing or expense issues. Lastly, you have OPEX, which should ideally be around 10% of your revenue, which leaves you for around 20% of net profit. Checking on these metrics should give you a good start of diagnosing your business. This is why when we work with founders inside Daily Mentor, I often ask them to do a report card where they list down all their key metrics. This gives me and the mentors an accurate point of view to diagnose the main issues. And once you've identified the bottleneck that's holding back your growth, you move on to step 2, which is to fix your current systems to remove those constraints. But don't just settle for the quickest fix solution and get it done with. The last thing you want to do is build something that's just duct taped together, that's guaranteed to fall apart again when you try to scale to the next level. Instead, focus on building resilient solutions that not only remove present bottlenecks, but also prevent future ones from popping up. Of course, the big question is, how do you know which solution to pick? There's a huge experience piece here, which makes it challenging for new founders to figure out, but here are some rules of thumb to get you started. For example, if you're dealing with COGS being 45% of your revenue, slightly higher, the simple solution is to adjust your pricing. Maybe you can price higher to offset the higher COGS, or try bundle offers to increase your average order value. Another solution, although not always possible, is to decrease your COGS. There are many ways to do this. You can strike a deal with your supplier or find a brand new supplier to lower that price. This is what happened with a homeware brand that I talked to. They were doing okay at around $500,000 revenue a year, but their actual numbers behind the scenes were brutal. Just 8% net margins, way too low for a new business. They'd been told to scale up their Facebook ads by another mentorship, but obviously their business would just go straight into unprofitability. Part of their solution was to find a new logistics partner to improve these margins, which we all agreed was a smart thing to do. But we also taught them how to structure a welcome offer that had double the margin of their current order value. Suddenly this constraint was lifted and they could scale Facebook ads, doubling their business almost overnight. Admittedly, there are lots of potential ways to fix this, and knowing which one, again, comes down to experience. But here are some ideas to get you started. One quick and cheap and easy way is to focus on website SEO, especially if you've been suffering from poor conversions. It could be as simple as the change we made with Udi with adding this more than 95% recommended badge just below the pricing on our product detail page. It was ridiculously subtle and simple, but it added an extra 9K in just 8 days. Over the year, that would add an extra $800,000 in revenue. Or it could be something major like a whole new advertorial with an aggressive offer page and multiple upsells. Another potential solution is to work on your positioning. Having much better positioning makes it more relevant and compelling to your market, which in turn makes them convert better and at cheaper rates. One business owner I talked to had this exact problem. They were selling automotive accessories to a largely competitive niche without any hook or difference. That's why his ads just weren't scaling, nor was his funnel converting. We taught him that the easiest way to solve this is to ask the question, what makes my product stand out in the market? Is it because of a unique feature, an outcome that only your product can deliver, or it can even be an emotional connection that none of your competitors are delivering? Now, there are other potential ways to improve your MER, and I'm going to talk about those later. But first, I want to address a common issue of OPEX getting out of control. If this is your issue, the solution is simple, but not always easy. Looking into your expenses and try to eliminate as much as you can. My top tip here is to get your financials broken down into all of your major expense lines. On the columns, you have the past 3 months, and on the rows, you have all of the expenses over $100 that you spent in those past 3 months. Then you go in and delete the rows and see how it impacts your P&L. For example, you might be paying a retainer fee to an agency that frankly isn't giving you as much as you thought that they were. In this case, you could simply fire the agency and hire a temporary contractor, or you could go in-house. You want to change this in the financials of each of those columns. You might also be using tools and SaaS and software that aren't really contributing much to your operations, but are eating up your revenue. And you'll find that it's these small, seemingly insignificant expenses that add up and strain your cash flow. Now, once you've taken care of all these bottlenecks and everything's moving smoothly, you need to move on to the next step. I call this step accelerating the flywheel, and it's where you start to see incremental improvements in your business that make it run faster, better, smoother, and generate way more revenue. I generally like to look at 3 areas of growth. First are your ad creatives. Many founders make the mistake of relying on just a handful of winning ads. This is a huge roadblock. because even the best ads will start fatiguing sooner or later. We recently had a kids toy business in Daily Mentor. When I first talked to them, they were set to go from about $850,000 to over $3 million in a year. Then they suddenly got hit with an 80% drop in revenue. The core bottleneck, they only relied on a single meta ad to drive their sales. And granted, it was a good ad. Once this single golden ad stopped performing, they didn't have anything to replace it with. No ads in the pipeline, no system to test creatives, and no other acquisition strategy. You see, your goal is to have a creative supply chain that churns out new and diverse ads, consistent winning ones, and scale those. So how do we fix the creative supply chain? If you're just starting out, focus on first upping your ad output volume. Once you have consistent flow going, try to diversify your ads. Then finally, focus on improving the quality. You could also give your product to small creators on TikTok and Instagram and get them to make creatives for you. Then hire those who really outperform and start paying them a retainer. Better yet, rather than a retainer, give them a unique affiliate discount code and get them posting 5 times a day, only paying them for sales they bring in. You can then grab the creators off their social media, put it into your ad account, and give them a small percentage of the ad spend in the future for that creatives. They'll make so much money, so will you. We also like to repurpose existing assets we have, then just use B-roll, voiceovers, or AI to create variety. Now, the second area of growth is about optimizing your entire sales funnel. Here, I suggest an inside-out approach, or improving the processes that is closest to checkout first, then working your way upwards or backwards. Because think about it. Even if you have the most highly optimized, high converting product page in the world, you still won't get any sales if your checkout page is a whack. So it pays to tweak your post-purchase offers first, which realistically shouldn't take long, then go back with cart optimization, then to your product page, and then finally your home page. As to what the actual tweaks are, well, there's plenty for you to choose from, and I'm not going to get into all of those today. I've got plenty of other videos. Just don't forget to A/B test everything so you know which optimizations are actually working. The next area of growth is your SMS and email campaigns. I'd start by optimizing automated flows through split testing. Start with the earliest messages in the flow as they will be delivered the most. Now, there are a dozen flows that you can do, but I would encourage you to focus on the 5 key ones that every brand must have. First is the welcome flow, abandon checkout, browser abandonment, add to cart abandonment, and post-purchase flows for new and returning customers. Everything else like re-engagements or win-backs isn't a priority at this stage, as it can be done via campaigns. And speaking of campaigns, if you're not sending 2 to 4 times a week, then you should be focusing on upping this to that level. A lot of people here say, I'm running out of campaign ideas. You can use a free website not sponsored by them at all, milled.com, to see a ton of email ideas. Now, remember, email marketing isn't about selling things that cannot be sold. Rather, it's about selling more of what people already buy to people that just don't have it yet. So don't be afraid to send more and more messages and find these types of people on your list. Now, the good thing about optimizing one area of growth is that it affects every other. For example, lowering your COGS by finding a better supplier frees up more money so you can spend it on ads, which brings in more revenue. Or consider how doing CRO to improve your conversion rate on your product page allows you to spend way more on all of the ads that are pushing to that product page to create way more profit. And it's a beautiful compounding e-com flywheel. Every incremental improvement you do gives a bigger and bigger impact. But there's one pitfall you should watch out for here. Any improvements to your business must not ask for more input from you. Otherwise, you're just creating more and more work for yourself. This leads to an all too common problem of founders becoming stressed out, burnt out, a one-man team that are basically prisoners in their own business. To avoid this, you need to plug in people to increase your leverage. And when it comes to hiring, you need to get the person who can give you the most leverage. I have a formula for this, which is leverage equals task importance times your inability times time spent times ease plus affordability of hire. In other words, the best hire is someone who compensates for your weaknesses, is working on a high leverage task, frees you up from time consuming activities, and is affordable to hire. So you just need to go through this e-com flywheel, adding improvements, tweaking hiring as needed, and improving some more every single day. Eventually, you'll get into step 4, which is expand the opportunity. Once you've already maxed out your operations, you're now facing a new risk: plateauing. In some cases, expanding into 8 and 9 figures with your current business isn't enough. regardless of how much fine tuning you do. Case in point, a French women's brand approached us. They were doing, I think, about 4 million euros a year, but they got stuck at that level. They wanted to grow further. The answer here wasn't about incremental improvements because they were just very, very efficient. It's a big swing for diversification. And to understand this, we can look at something called the Ansoff matrix. On the x-axis, we have new products. On the y-axis, we have new markets. It can also be shown with new channels instead of new products. If we can achieve growth in both areas, we can achieve diversification and prevent the likelihood of plateauing in the future. Of course, big moves also come with big risks, so we need to pick the right opportunity first. That's why it's smart to focus on moves with the highest leverage first to make sure that the risk is worth it. In other words, ask yourself this question: how much impact will doing X or Y bring to my business? What is the chance of my success? And how much time and money will it cost me? Am I willing to spend that? Looking through every potential innovation through that lens will improve your odds of making the right decision to make your business grow. Then, once you've successfully identified the right innovation, implemented it, and gained some traction, that will open a whole new level of constraints yet again, which will lead you back to the start of our framework, where you'll do it over and over again, diagnosing the root cause of your problems, fixing the bottlenecks, accelerating a flywheel, then finally expanding even more with newer, better innovations. It sounds so simple when you think about it. So why can't everyone do it? Why are most founders still stuck and struggling at 5 figures, or worse, just closing down outright? As they say, the devil is in the details. Just like most things in life, you need to have the proper tools, knowledge, and experience to apply this framework effectively. You need to know the specific metrics to aim for to be able to diagnose accurately. You need to know what looks good and what's a red flag. You need to know what to fix and have the skills and experience to do a good job fixing it. You basically need to have the experience that will tell you the highest leverage growth levers to pull on. The sad truth is, it took me 10 plus years of winning and lots of losing in the trenches to learn how to put all of this into practice. And unfortunately, without knowing the context of your businesses deeper, I can't go into much more specifics than this video. However, if you're really intentional about scaling, about sitting down at your desk every morning, having a laser-focused action plan that you know will yield results, then let me offer you a shortcut. Leverage my experience and all of the ecom founders that have already figured it out and built successful 8 to 9 figure businesses. Skip all the trial and error, avoid all the mistakes we've made, and fast track your business growth without the chaos. It's your unfair edge, and I called it Daily Mentor. If you haven't heard about it already, Daily Mentor is my ecom accelerator, inside of which you can get one-on-one support from ecom heavyweights. They've sold over 50 million units globally and have made over $2 billion in sales collectively. We'll work alongside you with one-on-one mentorship and show you this roadmap to 7, 8, even 9 figures a year. You'll learn all of our strategies using the Daily Mentor video content library with training and templates on how to run effective Facebook ad campaigns, how to find and test winning products, proven forecasting methods, building a world-class team to handle your growth, inventory management, conversion tips, and so much more. Fair warning though, it won't be for everyone. You can only get in via application because aside from this personalized one-on-one guidance we've got a really special community of ecom founders building up that we need to protect by carefully vetting every founder for a fit. So if you're interested, you can find out more and apply for it by the link in the pinned comment. I really want to reiterate, it's by application only. We screen everyone who wants to work with us. So if you do want to join, then please take the application seriously to avoid disappointment. We want to guarantee that we can make you money. But if you're genuinely committed about scaling your business to 8 figures and beyond, and are ready to execute on all of the tips that we give you, then click the link and I'll see you in there.